Hello, everyone. Can somebody confirm that you can hear me well and see me well? There is a chat. Good, thank you, guys. Thanks. So maybe let's wait a few moments for others to join. So we have everyone, and in the meantime, today we will be talking about SHIPA methodology, which is methodology by Basecamp, more precisely by Ryan Singer, which is their head of product, and it's been really it really inspired me. And a few months back, we decided to give it a try in Salsita, and I think it worked really well. So I will be talking about that. So, but again, maybe let's give one more minute for others to join. Maybe one organizational thing. If you have any comments, let's say on spot, you can use the chat that's in the right. Also, if you have, let's say, some general question about ShapeUp or whatever we will discuss here on the slides, scroll down and there is a place where you can type your questions. To Adam, like, are we muted? Yeah, this is maybe a little bit unfortunate because this webinar Ninja works in a world that I'm the only one who is speaking. Yeah, if you want to interact with me, use the chat or the questions below. And definitely after my presentation, I will go through all the questions. So yeah, definitely don't hesitate to ask me anything. Anyway, so I would say let's get started. So this talk is about ShapeUp and how it can speed up the development when you are developing some product. I will be covering some basic what ShapeUp is. I will be comparing it to Scrum or Kanban. I will be talking about all the stages or all the phases of ShapeUp and discuss what principles teams should follow there and what kind of benefits it will give them. And in the end, I will be talking a little bit about how we connect ShapeUp and Design Sprint and how it really worked well for us. So let's get to it. So ShapeUp, basically, in which situation you should think about it? Like if you feel that the team has low velocity, read ShapeUp and try to use it. If the team feels that there's ambiguous requirements, if they feel there is no clear direction and every sprint, for example, they are working on completely different things without any, let's say, meaning or without any common purpose, again, try ShapeUp. If the team feel that there is always some kind of distraction, that, for example, there are too many meetings, always need to clarify things, that's also a good use case for ShapeUp. If you feel that your team is lacking motivation, if you feel that the deliveries are unpredictable, if the team feels that there is lots of bureaucracy around, filling different fields in tools like Jira and stuff like that, again, you can think about ShapeUp. Also, it should help with the quality as well. So what is ShapeUp? I think the best way how to describe it is to compare it with, for example, Scrum. So in Scrum, usually you work in 2-week sprints that you in the beginning you say, okay, this sprint we will be working on those stories and we will try to get it done, and it goes like sprint by sprint, the same pace. In ShapeUp, Basecamp, who is using the methodology and who published the methodology, they suggest something different. They say, okay, let's work for 6 weeks on something specific, with some specific goal, and let's really focus on it. And after the 6 weeks, let's have a 2 weeks, what they call cooldown period, which is a period where people can tackle small things, maybe technical debt, maybe research some new technologies, or discuss upcoming features. So, and the goal here is that, in sprint, you are always sprinting, and it's really exhausting if you don't have any time to sort of relax. But in Shape-Up, basically say, okay, let's have a relay, let's focus on something, let's put all the energy to achieve that goal, but then let's change the pace, let's, do all those different things like tackling the technical debt and stuff like that. And it really helps to gain energy for the team and to be productive again and again. Another difference is that usually when you're planning the sprint in Scrum, you estimate the stories, so you use story points. We can discuss like if estimating even makes sense and how reliable that methodology is. But in Shape-Up, they do it completely different way. Basically, they are not asking the team, how much effort is this feature. It's actually the opposite way, that the product owner, product manager is saying, hey, I think that we should invest 2 weeks in solving this problem. So basically, they are giving the team some time budget, for solving some specific issue. So completely different thinking. Another difference I would say is that in Scrum, you are working with what I would call like stream of tickets. It's basically, you look in Jira, GitHub, or whatever tool you use, and there's always some ticket that usually starts something like, as a user, I want something, so to achieve something. And which is fine. But I feel that the problem is that very often, although each ticket is from maybe completely different part of the app, and so the team always need to constantly switch the context. So imagine that there's a developer that's, for example, working on 4 or 5 tickets during that sprint, and each ticket it's from completely different part of the app. It's really, they need to always learn the part of the app, and it's really time consuming. It wastes energy of the developer. And again, if you compare it to ShapeUp, they're doing it completely different way. So what I say is the product person should prepare a mini project pitch that basically describe what needs to be achieved during the next 6 weeks. And usually it's those 6 weeks, but also it could be smaller project for 2 weeks, and then basically the team is working for 3 smaller projects in that 6-week cycle. And the goal here is to give them all the information, uh, all basically the goals that needs to be achieved, and then the team is actually self-organizing to achieve that goal. So nobody is creating tickets for them. It's really up to them on the team. So how such pitch should look like? Like the most important part is like, what problem are we trying to solve? Like clearly describe, hey, we are trying to solve this because it's really hurting our users. So let's try to figure out. Then there is a high-level solution. Usually they recommend in ShapeUp, they recommend to use some sketches, for example, describe the user journey of that solution, maybe some rough wireframes. So the team really knows what needs to be done in, for example, those 6 weeks. Then the time budget, we already discussed that. Then there is a section about what they call no-goes, or we can call it nice to have. Basically, clearly say what is only nice to have for that feature, and clearly say basically what things doesn't bring that or don't bring that much value, and the team should not be focusing on that unless they really have the time, and usually they don't. So so that's another thing. And also there is last section is about risk, because developing software is actually a very complex matter, and there are many things that can go wrong. And here in the section, it forces the product owner to really think about it, like what can go wrong, and try to address it. And also when the team is starting the cycle and they have the kickoff call, like they should all like brainstorm, okay, what will go wrong, how we will mitigate that problem, and so on. So very often it could be that they are dependent on some other team, or they are using technology that they don't have experience with, and things like that. And if you really have a discussion about it, you can at least be aware of that and act on it. So let's move on. So if I continue in the comparison, and I will add also Kanban to this table or to this comparison. Let's sort of explore it from three different angles. Like the first angle is about, let's say, if in phase of your project you need to spend lots of time, or you want to focus on experimenting and learning, for example, about your users, about the technology and stuff like that. So I think for that, probably the best is Kanban, because every day you will say, okay, this day I will focus on this and try to experiment with this kind of thing. So you can every day change the course, and that's for beginning of projects or beginning of some new feature. It could be actually a good way to do things. In Scrum, because you work in those 2 weeks sprints, you usually do something like, okay, so let's build those new features, and after 2 weeks you can evaluate and again prepare plan for next 2 weeks. So I would say there is more balance between experimenting and building those things. In shape up, it's a little bit different. I think the people that are trying to use it, they are like sort of conscious that for 6 weeks you are betting on something. So this bet should be really thought through, because otherwise you will waste basically at least 6 weeks, which is a lot of time. And that's why they are putting so much effort into preparing that mini project, all the describing the problem, describing the solution, talking about the risk, to minimize the risk of the failure of that. So they are risking bigger chunk of teams time, but that's why they are doing all those things. Maybe frankly, even if you are not using ShapeUp, I think this is you can be inspired by ShapeUp in a sense that you should be really when you are preparing requirements for ticket user stories, you should really put lots of efforts in it and really investigate from different angles, the same way as in ShapeUp product people are investigating those mini projects. Another aspect is like if the product that we are building, if it has already like clear direction. And what I mean by that, so for example, I feel that if you use Kanban, you very often are still in this phase that you are, as we said, like there is lots of experimentation, and it's because you are still trying to figure out what is your positioning of your product. In Scrum, I feel it's like when you found what is your positioning, for example, comparing to your competitors, but now you're trying to figure out what features users want. So every 2 weeks, you deliver one feature and say, okay, it's working or not, and plan the next one. In ShapeUp, again, I feel that they're trying to do it a little bit differently. They are really focusing on not features, but really on like problems that we are solving for the people, and what jobs to be done user want us to solve for them. So what is jobs to be done? Very quickly, imagine that some person goes to the bank, and the person wants a mortgage. Usually the person actually doesn't want mortgage, but he or she wants a house. But actually, usually he or she doesn't want house, but he or she wants to live in the house, right? So actually, the end goal is like be living in the house. So that's the jobs to be done. Like basically, what is the end goal? And I think, for example, in Basecamp, they really investigate a lot about what problems people are having, what are their jobs to be done. And when they do lots of research, then they can again invest 6 weeks into solving that, because they are more sure about that they will really improve the product by doing, for example, such feature. So again, even maybe if you don't use ShapeUp, whenever you creating requirements for some ticket, think about the problem, think about the jobs to be done statement that the ticket is trying to address. The last aspect that I would like to discuss is like the product state or the code base. So for example, I feel the Kanban is great, for example, when you start a new project, when you are finishing some big phase of your project and it's about to go public. And usually there are lots of bugs, lots of fixes to do. And for example, Basecamp, those authors of this methodology, they recently launched hey.com, the new email service. And even them, in the last phase, they were sort of doing Kanban because they had a bunch of things that they need to fix before going to public. Scrum, again, I feel that it's sort of balanced approach where you always plan, okay, we will fix a couple of issues and then develop a few new features. In ShapeUp, I feel that they trying to like distinguish sort of three phases. One is the development part. Okay, for 6 weeks now we are focusing on delivering this one thing, and we will really deliver it. Then there is this cooldown period where you can tackle all those like technical debt, maybe small bug fixes, and so on. And also when there is some exploration phase, it's again treated as something different, because it's basically when the product people should like explore the solution and do the shaping. And I will get to that point a little bit later in the presentation, but there are clear distinguishing those phases. And by the way, again, you can use some principles from ShapeUp to enrich Kanban and Scrum as well. So for example, when I discussed that they use it for hey.com, the Kanban, what they did is they actually say, okay, so we have a bunch of stuff that we need to fix, but let's time box it with 6 weeks. And after that, we will go back to our regular development in 6-week cycles with clear goal and clear plan. We'll check if there is something in the discussion. Okay, cool, nothing. So now basically, what happens in practice when you follow the ShapeUp principles? So there is the first phase, which called in shaping, which is when the product manager, for example, when they are preparing the mini project, they are really trying to describe what is the problem, what is the solution, and trying to prepare it for the development cycle. So what principles the product people should follow here? We already discussed the first one, like they should really try to explore the problem and jobs to be done statement, okay, what we are trying to solve here. And really the benefits what they get is that they see the big picture, because it's not like, okay, we are doing this widget, but like we know why we are doing this widget, for who, and what kind of problem we will solve for them. The second principle is that you should try to sketch high-level solution. Again, it's recommended that you should, for example, sketch sort of user journey. Like if you are doing new feature, how it fits to the current workflow, and what information should be on those new screens and new widgets and stuff like that. And this sketching exercise, I really recommend that, because it really helps you as a product person to understand the whole concept. But also even for the developer team, it's really great. Like humans are really visual, and if you have something visual, it really helps them to understand. The third point is remove dependencies. Basically, if you are asking your team to work on something for 6 weeks and in a very focused way, there should be any blockers, anything that will distract them. So you should think about how to remove all the dependencies to make really their life easy. And as a side effect of it, it's like, for example, very often there are problems that, okay, you need to wait till, I don't know, some backend changes on which, other team is working, or there is another feature that you are waiting for, and or maybe there's some sales conversation and somebody needs to confirm something. It really doesn't matter. But if you try to remove the dependency, usually it forces you to find actually the smallest possible scope that brings value. And that's good, because then you can deliver something meaningful to people, to users, faster. Time budgeting, we already discussed that. Like, instead of asking the team, how much or how long it will take, you are saying, okay, I feel that for this problem, we should invest 2 weeks of your time to solve it. And actually, again, as a side effect, it forces you to evaluate business value of that feature, which is very useful, because then you can do way better prioritization. The last principle that we should follow when we use shape up and we are in the shaping phase, it's explore the risk. What is it? Like, explore risk means that you really think about what can go wrong. Like, you should be really hard on yourself, say, okay, what will go wrong? What are the biggest challenges? And if we feel that something might happen, okay, it will happen, and then you should have a discussion. Okay, in that case, what we will do, right? Like, for example, if we are trying we need to use new library that we don't have experience with. So what we will do if that library, for example, doesn't support what we need, and basically have some kind of plan B for those kind of situation. Obviously, you cannot sort of foresee everything, but still, this kind of exercise really help you to nail down the requirements. And frankly, it really decreased the probability of failure, and that that the development of that feature will take much longer. Development phase. So, okay, so as a product person, you just prepare the pitch following all those principles that we just discussed. And now you have a kickoff call, and the development team is working on some feature with clear goal, what needs to be done. Cool, great. So what they should do. So first, maybe a little bit different thing than in the usual development. In ShapeUp, they recommend that the developers should start with a proof of concept. So how is it different with, let's say, normal development? So let's say you have some new features that you want to add, some new widget, and that requires changes like some database changes, I don't know, adding some new table. It requires to create new API endpoint on the backend, and it requires some front-end changes. I guess usually what would happen is that the developer, okay, so I will start with the database, I will add the new table, then I will create the new API endpoint, and then I will do the front end. And for example, I will use some library. But maybe actually this using some third-party library could be the most risky part, because you don't have experience with it. Maybe there are troubles, or the implementation is harder than you thought. And so what ShapeUp recommends is actually that you start with the riskiest part. So in this case, the front end part is the most riskiest part. So they recommend that you should start with that, create some kind of proof of concept, and if everything is fine, good. But if you find some problem, you have still lots of time, because you are early in the cycle to somehow act on those issues. So the benefit of this approach is that you find problems early. Second principles, you shouldn't over-engineer stuff, you shouldn't over-design stuff, because frankly, you have 2 weeks or 6 weeks, doesn't matter, like the time budget, but it's limited. So you should really get to the point, and not try to have super great technical solution. You shouldn't try to create super great UIs when it's not needed. So and this really time budget really helps you to prioritize things, and don't do over engineering, and don't do over designing. And the benefit is clear, that you will actually deliver on time. shape up, or I would say in generally the base camp, those guys are all about protecting people's focus, deep work, or being in the zone, and you should try to do it in the cycle as well. So in shape up, when you are in the development cycle, there's no like planning meeting, because you have the plan, right? Like for 6 weeks, you know that you need to deliver this. It's super clear. You have all the information that you need, so there's no need for some additional planning, grooming backlog, whatever. That you are just focused on deliver on that goal. Obviously, if the team is not distracted, they have higher velocity, and even the quality is bigger, because they don't need to switch the context and so on, which is great. You should try to embrace ownership. What ShapeUp again recommends is that because you give the team all the information and a clear goal, there's no need for somebody else to sort of be checking regularly, micromanaging what needs to be done, because it's obviously clear. And what they also recommend is that to have like small teams where the self-organization is actually simple to do. Like if you have 2-3 people, it's very easy for them to organize between themselves. Again, the benefit is that there's no bureaucracy, and if people feels that okay, they are owning not just what they are doing, the product, but also the process, how it's done, they have way higher motivation, which is always a good thing. The last thing is actually Basecamp. They came up with this interesting idea that they call hill chart, which they use for communicating the progress. So if I, for example, again compare it to how it's done in Scrum or Kanban, usually you have the tickets, and then you have columns like to do, in progress, in review, in testing, and done. Here they are doing a little bit differently. So in the beginning of the development cycle, there is this kickoff, and on that kickoff call, the team is discussing like what are the big pieces that needs to be done in order to deliver, for example, this feature, right? So it could be exactly like we need to do the backend changes, we need to do the front end changes, we need to update the database, and basically how the team is actually communicating the progress to let's say the to PMs or to other people in the company is through the hill chart. So the hill chart, the idea is that the left part of the hill is like that's the area of unknown, and the right part of that area is known part. So the analogy is actually that basically when you start, for example, working on that front end changes, okay, you start working on that proof of concept, you uh, you actually are exploring, okay, what needs to be done, like what are all those edge cases that I need to cover. And whenever you feel that okay, you explore everything, you have the proof of concept, and you know everything what needs to be done, and you just need to do it, then you are in this known phase. And then here, basically, okay, it's about, okay, I have a to-do list of all those small tasks that I need to do, and I just need to do it. Which, like, this way of communicating is actually very interesting, because again, in ShapeUp, they recommend that the team should try to sort of bring all the main pieces over the hump, let's say, and try to and force them to really explore all the, let's say, challenges and risky parts of the implementation, because that way they, if they do it early, again, there is still time to somehow adjust, for example, the scope or the solution in order to meet the deadline. And another nice thing is that if the team like tries, sorry, if the team tries to create a proof of concept and get through the unknown phase, then they have basically a long list of things that needs to be done. And for example, if they are in a situation that they don't have enough time, they can start really prioritize like what are the small things that really needs to be done, or what is just nice to have and can wait, for example, for the cooldown period or for next cycle. And this way of actually communicating the progress one good thing about this, it actually remove the need for micromanagement, that some project managers say, okay, so where you are with this ticket, or did we start testing, whatever, right? Like in this case, it's really self-managed by the team, and still the team can clearly communicate to all the stakeholders where they are in the project. The last phase is the cooldown period. I use here the word freedom, and it for some it might seem okay, so we are doing basically nothing. Like the quite opposite is true. Actually, it's the time where we can handle all those small things that we didn't have time in the regular cycle, because we were really focused on delivering the value to the users, for example. And here is a time that if we have some technical debt, okay, now we have time to deal with it. If we know that there are some upcoming features, and for that we will need to use new technologies, okay, let's explore them, let's learn them, and we can give, for example, feedback to product people, like how we feel about those technology, if it's easy, if it will be easy to use or not, and stuff like that, which is very useful. Also, we can tackle all those small bugs that we didn't have time during the normal development cycle, and again keep the quality of the product high. But also here is the time actually that we can talk about the upcoming feature, because in the development cycle, ideally we don't do any planning outside of that cycle. We really focus on just delivering. And here we have time to discuss with product people, okay, so what is the next feature, how we feel about the solution, like how hard it will be, and all those like discussion that are very, very useful and should happen. Now we have time where it will not distract the team in the development. So that's the cooldown. Last thing that I want to talk about is that actually in this cooldown period, very often actually let's say the final phase of shaping is happening, and I have like, or we have like good tip how to do it, because actually the shaping, especially if you're not that experienced, it could be hard. It's not an easy task to figure out the problem, the solution, remove all the dependencies, and you need very, very often, or usually you need input from all the team members on the technical side, on the design uh, side, and so on. And for that, actually, it's really great, the design sprint methodology. Design sprint methodology is not part of the shape up, but we feel it's actually very natural to use it in shape up. So how design sprint works? Uh, it's a methodology from I think that originated in Google, and it's used for it's a structured workshop where, for example, like the first 2 days you do the brainstorming about the problem that you are having. So, for example, first day you start, okay, what's the problem that we are trying to solve? Then you look at some other sites, other application, maybe the competition to be inspired by them. And then each team member create different concepts. So you have like various solution. And by the way, the first 2 days is the time where key stakeholders should participate in it. In our case, because we are agents in working for our clients, that's the time where our clients should join us, because there's lots of brainstorming what needs to be done, and their inputs are absolutely key and very valuable. The second day, when you have all those concepts, there is very nice exercise that I really love, where basically each team member is voting for good small ideas across all the concepts, and which will give you sort of a heat map of good ideas. And the rest of the day you will spend bringing all those good ideas into one coherent concept. The third day, like the designer will take the concept and prototype it in tools like Figma or Adobe XD and create like high fidelity clickable prototype. And the developer can use that day for example, exploring the technologies that will be used for delivering such feature in the upcoming cycle. The 4-day, we will do user testing. We will get feedback from real people about the solution that we prepare last 3 days. And again, the developer can continue in some kind of proof of concepting and to be sure that this feature is doable in a reasonable time. And on the 4-day, we will show it, in our case, to our clients or to stakeholders. We will discuss maybe some tweaks, and based on that, we will prepare the plan for the mini projects and for the upcoming 6-week cycle. So that's pretty much it about ShapeUp and how we are trying to use it. I would say that we tried on a couple of internal projects. We tried on, or we are trying it as well on at least 2 clients project, and so far I think the result is really good. I see lots of improvement. So we really the key principles like that, you are budgeting the time, you are really preparing the proposals or the requirements where there is clear goal with clear solution. It's really helping the team, and I feel that they are even more enjoying this kind of development. So I would only recommend to use this methodology. So now it's actually time for your questions. So again, if you scroll down and write it there, I will now answer them. I will also check the chat if there's something. So there is one in chat, so I will start with that. So what kind of tool would be the best fit for ShapeUp methodology? So Basecamp, they are obviously using Basecamp, which is basically combination of, I would say, Slack and some, let's say, I don't know, Trello, for example. So it's very lightweight project management tool. So that's definitely one option. What we are using, for example, is GitHub. Basically, we have board that is sort of showing the hill chart, basically in which phase we are. We're using several boards, so that's definitely one option as well. But frankly, you can use in other tools as well. So if you are using Jira, maybe it's not, let's say, natural fit for this methodology, but definitely I believe you can use it. I feel that those principles are way beyond just the tools. So let me answer the question. So from Alfred, I understand this for a product. How would this apply to service companies working on clients' project when you don't control the product? Yeah, I would say in our case, it's very often the situation where the clients is really driving the product. But I would recommend to really talk to your clients, for example, and discuss with them that this is actually a good way how to prepare the requirements for the team, and it's more efficient way. Very often I experience that, for example, the product people is trying to even like split the tickets for each developer, and frankly they are not probably the best people to do it, because it should be the developers themselves to do it, because they have the experience what needs to be done. So I feel that even for product people, this is more natural way how to do those kind of things, that there is one, let's say, longer document describing the problem, the solution, and I feel that it could be useful even for the client. So even though, let's say, we are not the one who is driving that, I still feel that it's applicable. Okay. Anyone tried to scale this approach in a way safe, horribly scale Scrum? Wow, this is absolutely great question. I'm not sure. Like in that slide there is this learnshapeup.com, where basically there is a forum where people from different companies are discussing how they are using ShapeUp. I don't think I heard about any company, a really big one, like, I don't know, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, whatever. But speaking of Microsoft, I actually have a chance on some meetup talk with some person, and he was really into ShapeUp, and he was actually thinking how to do it there. And it was very interesting discussion with him. The problem that they are facing is that there are lots of dependencies between the teams. So, for example, he feels that the sort of the planning is actually simpler with the ShapeUp, because you have, time box everything. There is clear that for 6 weeks we will be working on this, and we will deliver this. So that's good part. But if the teams are dependent on other teams, that's the problematic part, and I don't think they solve it. So I feel there might be some companies, they will try it, and I would be very curious if they will succeed. Um, Also, the teams fail. What Scrum do is that it minimizes the impact of fail by time constraint and enforce discussion about problems we run in development. How ShapeUp tackles this? Or if it doesn't, I definitely miss it on official pages. How do you tackle it in Salsita? So that's a really good question. Again, so I would say that first of all, they are calling those mini projects a bet. So for them, actually, failures is a natural part of it. So, for example, I think they are very sometimes, let's say, very harsh, because what they do is, for example, if the team doesn't deliver on time, sometimes they are willing even to erase all the code and start from scratch, because they are saying probably the shaping part was wrong. We didn't shape the mini project well enough, and we should start again. I also know that sometimes, for example, because as I said, for example, the team should start with proof of concepting to find problems early. Sometimes they can scratch the cycle, let's say after 1 week, and reassess and prepare like new proposal. So that's also option as well. So I think that's frankly the answer. Yes, like, nothing is certain in product development. It's it's uh, it's definitely true. And so yeah, like, I think actually the whole methodology is actually helping you or force you to really explore all the risks and find problems early, and definitely you should act on it. Definitely you shouldn't wait 6 weeks till this blows up. And if it's necessary, I would even like cancel the sprint and reshuffle. By the way, what we, for example, did in Salsita, when we work for one of the clients, like, we should have start some cycle, but like 2 days before we should have start, we said, well, okay, we still don't feel that we really nailed down the solution, and we don't have the clear idea. So we postponed the start of the cycle for a couple of days, and we had more discussion, and that was actually very, very useful. And in the end, okay, we delayed sort of the project for 2 3 days, but actually we really simplified the solution, and I think that we save a lot of time to our clients. Actually, sometimes I would do even that kind of thing, that if you are not sure about the solution, I would rather wait, really discuss it, really properly shape it, and start the development a little bit later. I hope that I answered the question. If you feel that I didn't answer, feel free to add more or use the chat. Another question: do your design sprint happen during the cycle or during the cooldown period? Okay, that's again interesting question. Uh, I think it could happen both ways. What we are very often we are doing it before, like, for new clients. So basically before the whole project starts. That's one thing. I think the cooldown period is obvious good way like when to do it. So cooldown, I would say, is my preference. But sometimes sometimes actually the one design sprint is not enough, and sometimes we do the design sprint and there is still also work for designers to figure out. And for those cases, maybe if you feel, okay, this is really big and we will need more time, I would basically treat it as a separate mini project, and say, okay, for 2 weeks, the designer will be exploring this solution. And I know that, for example, even in Basecamp, when they start working on that Hey email service, they actually sort of work in that way that they say, okay, for next 6 weeks, we will be exploring, let's say, this part of the application. So, exploratory mini projects, I think, are very good as well. Another question: how do you determine whether a project is successful? Do you specify success criteria in your project pitches? If you think like if you mean something like some KPIs or some, I would say, hard metric, I don't feel I don't think we did it. I think the success, how, like, it's a good question, a hard question. I would say maybe it will seems a bit weird, but like for me, like if we feel good about the about at the end of the cycle and we feel good about the solution, that's actually for me one of the criteria for success. For us, actually, if the client is happy, that's definitely another let's say KPI that show us, okay, that we did a good job. But I would say, if you clearly define a problem and at the end of the cycle you say, okay, did we at least like improve the solution for that problem? Then it's a success. But so far we didn't use like any hard, let's say, metric to figure out, okay, if the project is successful or not, if or half successful. Yeah, so I hope that answered the question a bit. Okay, there's some comment. Isn't the success that you met your goals which you defined at the beginning? Yeah, exactly. Like basically, the problem is defining sort of the goal that you try to solve that problem. So definitely, basically, you should be asking, okay, did I or did we resolve that issue? So yeah. Okay, let's move on. How do you ensure the product manager stays highly involved during the development period? Any ceremonies, tips, tricks? Another great question. So, actually, I listened to some podcasts from the Ryan Singer, the author of the book, and I actually feel that they don't interact with the team at all, or very, very sporadically, let's say. What we do is that we have every week what we call a catch-up call, and on that catch-up call, what we do is we go through the hill chart and basically, okay, where we are with those big pieces, and basically discuss, for example, okay, are there some problems? Are there some challenges? Very often, like every meeting, I have always a question at the end, like what is the most challenging part that still needs to be done, or what is the most riskiest part? And that usually, especially in the beginning of the cycle, it triggers some interesting discussions. So yeah, we do the sort of catch up calls every week, but usually it's like 30 minutes top. And I would say, let's say, good indication that the initial proposal was good is that the catch-up call are very straightforward. Like if the initial proposal wasn't that great, and the team has still lots of questions on you as a product person, then probably it was not that well defined, and maybe or the team is not clear enough, or sometimes maybe they don't feel that they are really in the control to do all those decisions during the implementation. So definitely, if you feel that those catch-up calls are not straightforward, probably it's something that you should discuss on the retrospective after the cycle. And that's maybe another thing. What usually I try to do is after once we finish the development cycle, to have some kind of retrospective and really discuss, okay, what went well, what we could improve, and so on. Regarding the 2-week cooldown, Scrum teams work hard without it. Why is Shape Up any different? Do you think Shape Up is more intense? Well, I definitely don't think that that in Scrum people, I don't know, like they are not working that hard. I think it might be the quite opposite. I think the problem with Scrum is that you have all those ceremonies, all those meetings, and because sometimes you have the clear goal, but sometimes it's lots of like different tickets, and it's very destructive way of doing things. So then you cannot focus as you would like. So that's the difference. Um, and the cooldown, I don't think it's really like that people are not working. Definitely not. Again, I feel it's actually the time for developers to do all those things that they want to do, because, and usually the product people, because they don't have deep knowledge of the code, they don't feel that important. So this is the time where the team can tackle the technical debt, which in the end is actually very helpful for the velocity of the team and the quality of the product. Okay. So another question. What are your fails with ShapeUp so far? Any lesson learned? Um, Definitely, one thing is I mentioned it. I think that you need spend a lot of time actually preparing those mini projects. And as I mentioned, one project we wanted to start on, let's say, Monday, but we feel, okay, this is not good enough. So we should have spent more time before. Me as a product person, I should prepare it in a better way. So definitely really dedicate lots of time for this preparation, because imagine that you are actually giving in sort of instruction to the team for next 6 weeks. So definitely you will not do it in 10 minutes. You will not do it in 1 hour, probably not even one day. So like definitely be prepared to dedicate time for that. So that's one thing. Second thing, we, I think, still trying to figure out what is the best way how our UX and QA people should be part of this shape up cycle. Maybe some specific examples. For example, our UX people tries always, when they, let's say in the design sprint, they prepare some prototype and then the team is implementing it. They want to give like feedback on the real thing. Okay, they would say, okay, hey developers, looks good. Thanks for implementing my proposal, but I would change this, and this. But in ShapeUp, it's kind of tricky because you don't want to distract the team. You don't want to sort of increase the scope with new ideas. So we still are trying to figure out what is the best way how UX people and the dev team is cooperating in the cycle. That's one thing, and second thing is QA, because one thing is, okay, QA should be definitely testing during the cycle the features that we are implementing, but also there are stuff like that. Our QA are creating some automation suites, and we are always like sort of struggling. Okay, should they have their own mini projects? What they want to achieve in next 6 weeks? Probably, but I don't think we are there yet. We are thinking about it, but because they are also are part of the, let's say, regular team and helping them ensure that the quality is good, then they would be distracted with their mini projects. So that's definitely a thing that we are trying to figure out. What else? Like one project like we actually did for our client, and part of basically the shape up cycle was about redoing the wizard, and frankly it was touching lots of pieces, and it was very, like, in the end we were really rushing, and I feel that the scope was too huge. So definitely be realistic in what, like if you say the team, hey, okay, let's do it in 6 weeks, that doesn't automatically means that they can do it, because sometimes it's really lots of work. So really make some realistic expectation, and I would rather say, like, give them, let's say, really smaller scope, and in exchange you will get like higher quality. So that's I would say another takeaway from one of our cycle. Last question: Do you have a timeline based roadmap? If so, how do you set it with ShapeUp? Roadmaps, great question. I would say right now, not right now, but because, or yes and no. On some projects, because we are in the very beginning, I would say still no. But on some projects, I'm again inspired by what Basecamp is suggesting, and actually they are saying, okay, no roadmaps, but create options what to build. So how we are doing that, like because we are using GitHub, we have one special board which calls something like what to build next. And we have there a couple of columns, like one is in the cycle, and basically there is the mini proposal for what is being tackled in that cycle. Then we have a column which says in shaping, or yeah, in shaping, and those things are basically the stuff that we have pretty good idea what to build next, and from those we are then choosing what we can build next. And then we have column of with basically ideas, very rough thoughts that we know that we want to do, but nobody spent really time to really think them through and prepare at least some high-level solution, some good description for others. So that's the way how we are tackling this. I still fear there is lots of things to improve. So yeah, that's definitely one thing I would say that we still need to experiment and figure out what is the best way for us. Cool. I hope that I answer all the questions. So I hope that you learn at least a little bit. I definitely recommend reading that book. If you are interested, join that discussion forum on Learn ShapeUp. We have one article about ShapeUp also on our blog, so definitely go on our blog. And yeah, and I had some information that some potential clients and some current clients are should be on this webinar. So I hope that you guys liked it, and definitely reach out to us or to me directly, and if you have any questions or if you want to try on your project, just let us know. So thank you again, and have a nice day.